I've been seeing this time and time again with a lot of men feeling like they're ugly. They're not good enough. Now, I've only been focusing in the whole kind of manosphere space, whatever you want to call it, for around the past year. Basically, since when a good friend of mine, Dapper Dev, started uploading YouTube videos. And what I hadn't heard prior to that was this term Chad, this idea of this Chad guy who is the top 5 or however many percent of guys that gets women and has everything figured out, whether it's the perfect jawline, right height, muscular body, whatever it might be. Now, my thing is this, guys, because I had someone ask me in a previous video what my thoughts were on black pill and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to sit here and gaslight you guys and act like looks don't matter, because it's more than just even women. I've seen even people vote for certain politicians because they think they're good looking. Again, I think that's weird, but I've seen it. But at the end of the day, all we can do is be the best versions of ourselves. And there are many ways that men can be seen as, I guess, more attractive. Now, the first thing that I think most people need to understand is that we can improve all the external factors, build our bodies in the gym, whether it's losing body fat, gaining muscle, getting well-fitting pieces of clothing. We can do all these things. But something that bothers me when I see a lot of this kind of self-improvement kind of content, what they call lookmaxing, whatever, it talks about a lot of the superficial stuff, things on the outside, having a nice watch, having a nice car. You want to have a nice Breitling or Cartier, go for it, by all means. But not enough people talking about the eternal stuff, talking about being mentally well, talking about not surrounding yourself with toxic people and toxic women in relationships. Because a lot of those same men I see that want to do the look maxing stuff, they want to attract women who are gold diggers or with them for their resources. That's not real self-love and self-improvement. Real men should focus on their own mission and purpose. Even when it comes to the look maxing stuff, getting in better shape, all that kind of stuff. Don't do it for women. Do it for your own self-respect. Do it for when you walk in a room, you're going to be that much more respected. Because I've been that guy where I just didn't have a care in the world. Physically, I was a mess. Mentally, I was all over the place. And I just would throw on flip-flops and wear baggy basketball shorts and a hoodie everywhere I went. And the reality is, guys, we've become much more shallow since the social media stuff and a lot of other factors. We've become much more shallow and cold as a culture. Again, that's why I say I'm not going to sit here and gaslight and act like looks don't matter at all. But again, there are things that we can do to improve ourselves on a daily basis, which is ultimately what a man should be doing. They should be focusing on their grind, their mission, their purpose. Whether that purpose is going to university, whether that purpose is getting a job, whether that person is getting into a trade, whether that person is enlisting in the military, getting in shape, whatever that might be, helping your friends and family out. But I'm sure we've all had this friend, or we've all seen this, where someone will meet a girl that they're really into or be in a relationship, and they all of a sudden ignore their mission and purpose. They ignore all those things because the whole time they were just doing those things for women, for the approval of women. Now, you've seen it time and time again. Many months or even years will go by and they've not only stagnated, but in some cases gone backwards because they spent that much time neglecting the things that they should be focusing on. Even with the kind of look maxing stuff, even why I don't even like that term look maxing, being the best, maximum, whatever that might be. Again, I just say be the best version of yourself. I just say do things on a daily basis that are going to make you be a better, improve basically. And again, why I'm such a big proponent in the gym, with the gym, when it comes to people going to the gym, is because I see a lot nowadays is this instant gratification. Which is why I think a lot of the issue is apparent, why so many people think they're ugly, why the dating market is the way it is. Because, guys, look, I'll put it this way. You are 100% right when you say that people are much more shallow and much more cold. Women are not dating in their leagues like they used to. A good friend of mine made a point like this, and it really stuck with me because he's absolutely right. When I was a lot younger even, you used to see in-shape couples, out-of-shape couples. You used to see tall couples. You used to see short couples. My point being is that men and women, or should I say women in particular, dated relatively in their league. And then through years of stuff being pushed where they've been told, oh, you don't need a man, you can be Miss Independent, all this kind of stuff, essentially degrading men to being some kind of financial resource. Now, I understand that there are women that are successful, lawyers, engineers, dentists, and all that kind of stuff. But it's wrong if we're just going to look at each other as some sort of attainable asset. That's not at all what real human interaction should be. But to go back to my point with the whole lookmaxing stuff is that I've seen men also going way too far with it, with the kind of height lengthening surgeries and stuff like that. Again, what it reminds me of is just how you see women with, which I've been seeing a lot more of this lately, which goes to show how much more of a rampancy and rise there is in insecurity and people not feeling comfortable in their own bodies. But women getting these lip fillers, Botox, even young girls at the age of like 20, 21 getting these crazy cosmetic procedures done. And again, it's to me, by default, it's not attractive because it just goes to show you are not confident in your own body. I mean, that is just extremely unattractive to me. So I think us as men need to also realize we should not go too far with that either. All that kind of heightening surgeries and these kind of crazy extreme procedures. Again, what really bothers me too is that this whole idea of instant gratification, where a lot of people don't now see the kind of delayed gratification and putting the work in and discipline. And again, this is why I think it's so important for men to get in the gym. Because if you go to the gym, you see that it's going to take a number of months, perhaps years, to get to where you want to get, whether it's losing a certain amount of body fat, whether it's building a certain amount of muscle, whether it's hitting a certain amount of weight on a lift. So it's good to learn that and instill that and understand the concept and the fundamental around delayed gratification, because I think that's really lacking nowadays. And again, I think a big problem of why things seem so much more cold in the dating market. Why, I'm convinced a lot of women you see now could even be with guys like Brad Pitt, or who you could pick as this high value man with the money and the looks and all this kind of stuff, and they still in some cases wouldn't be happy. It's just extremely bizarre. We need to bring back really a form of, I feel like, humility, just being humble. Not thinking that you're so much better than everyone else. Not having this false kind of identity. Like even some of these pages I see all over social media. Again, us as men also need to wake up and take some accountability too. Because I've seen time and time again men simping for women, giving them all this unwarranted attention, treating them like celebrities. And then you wonder why they act the way they act. You wonder why they think they're so much better than everyone else. Why they're entitled to something that they're not entitled to. So it really just comes to a point where I don't think a lot of people are as ugly as they think they are. Again, the number one thing that we can do that doesn't involve any money or going and getting a nice watch or a nice shirt, which besides the gym membership maybe, but getting leaner. And when you get leaner, your facial features, your cheekbones, your jawline, they'll be more pronounced. You're going to naturally fit clothing better to where you won't have to wear a super fancy shirt or top or whatnot. And again, I mean, it's something where I believe that men should be on the grind. I believe that they should be improving, but just have a purpose greater than women. Like, I understand a lot of men, they want companionship, but at the end of the day, guys, I've heard so many horror stories from men who have absolutely had their lives destroyed or pretty close to near destroyed by women. Very toxic relationships with narcissists, very toxic situations that involve custody battles, fake allegations made against them in court, straight up fraud, without the fraud being punished, yet the man has their reputation potentially destroyed and they're out of pocket tens of thousands of dollars on fees and that kind of stuff. So again, with this whole grass is greener mentality, men, we got to understand the grass is not always greener. You want to be very careful because, again, that's a big problem too with how much more harder the dating market might seem to some people, that they're so much more desperate. They'll cling on to whatever they can. They'll ignore the red flags. They'll ignore this kind of stuff and just be like, oh, well, I just want companionship. And then at the end of the day, it really backfires. I've seen that happen time and time and time again, which is why it's so important to have good discernment, guys. But I just want to get on here and say, when it comes to this whole idea, I mean, ultimately men need to have a purpose greater than women. There are things that we can do on a daily basis to improve ourselves, right? And of course, looks aren't everything, but I'm not, again, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and gaslight and say that they don't matter. There are some things that are perhaps not in our control, like height, but there are things that we can do to actively improve ourselves. Like, for example, I myself was dealing with some hair loss over, months or even number of years. And it's something I've been able to work on. I don't know if you guys can kind of tell in the video, my hair might look a little bit fuller, maybe not, but essentially by going through things like doing microneedling, doing minoxidil, certain vitamins and nutrient changes, which again, for a man, that seems like a lot. Like, I don't think that's, quite frankly, maybe super masculine to have those kind of wild routines. I think that in some case, I think, I don't think I'd look bad bald. I think that there's a lot of men who pull off the look, and maybe even if I'm able to grow my hair back, maybe in some case I'm thinking, forget all the stress and all that kind of stuff. But my point being, guys, is just be comfortable in your own skin. You know what I mean? Just be confident in who you are, because when you see all the insecurity, you see all that. Now, again, you see these girls on social media, or I shouldn't even say social media. Nowadays, you used to only see that in social media, but again, it's so rampant to where I pretty much see that when I'm out and about. The lip fillers, the Botox, again, at younger and younger ages. It just is horrible and ruins them. People need to really appreciate the natural beauty, their natural self, and be confident in their natural self. And again, guys, what's really important to understand is that we can do all the external things we want. We can have the nice watch. We can have the nice car. But again, something that's important to remember too is that a lot of people that have those things that want to flex like they're rich, they're really not. Again, why I'm not really a big fan of designer goods and all this kind of stuff is with, Gucci and all this kind of stuff, is because it's almost like more of a status symbol. I've known people that have $400 Gucci belts but don't even have $10 under their name. You know what I mean? You don't want to just look rich. You don't just want to be about something that you're not. You know what I mean? You don't just want to, I don't know if poser is the right word, but you don't just want to put on an image. Again, do things within your means, but don't go all out is what I'm saying. Don't go crazy with it. Don't lose your mind over it. And just find ways to be humble in yourself and be confident in yourself, because we're at a time where that seems to be a lot less common. And again, we can do what we can to improve the external things, to improve the physical things, which quite frankly I think is good to do. But what's more important is the internal things, not only our physical health, but our mental health. Because all the fancy clothing, all the fancy shoes in the world are not going to do us any favors if we are mentally in complete disarray or physically in disarray. I've known people that have unfortunately passed at a younger age than they should have, who had decent money, and in the end that didn't do anything for them. So don't ignore those internal battles and internal improvements either, guys. But thank you so much for viewing the video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day.